I never thought I'd be the kind of person to fake quitting my job just to catch someone lying, but after what happened at my office, I honestly don't regret it. I've been working as a marketing analyst at a mid-sized tech company in Chicago for 4 years. It's not glamorous, but it paid the bills, and for the most part, I liked my team, or at least, I used to. My manager, David, was one of those guys who thinks he's a visionary leader because he read half of a business book once. He'd call people rockstars when they stayed late and dead weight when they disagreed with him. Still, I learned how to manage him, smile, deliver results, stay out of drama. It worked fine, until about 6 months ago. That's when Alex joined the team. Alex was younger than me, maybe 26, and had that polished, confident vibe, always joking, always on, the kind of guy who brings coffee for the boss, laughs too loud at meetings, and somehow ends up being credited for everyone else's work. I didn't dislike him at first. He was charming in that fake corporate way, the type that gets promoted not because they're good but because they know how to look good. It started small. I'd suggest a campaign concept in a meeting, and David would shrug it off. Then, 2 weeks later, Alex would present the same idea and David would call it brilliant. I noticed it once, then twice, and by the third time I realized it was becoming a pattern. I didn't want to sound paranoid, but it felt like someone was stealing my ideas and feeding them to the boss. Then came the feedback sessions. David pulled me aside after one Monday stand-up and told me, "Some people think you've been negative lately, a little disengaged." That threw me off. I wasn't negative, I just didn't fake enthusiasm about pointless Slack discussions. When I asked who said that, he said, "Doesn't matter who. Just watch how you come across." I brushed it off, thinking maybe someone misunderstood something. But then it kept happening. 2 weeks later, David accused me of missing a deadline, except I hadn't. I showed him the project tracker, timestamps and all. He just said, "Okay, maybe it was a miscommunication," and moved on. That's when I started paying attention. People in the office stopped chatting with me as much. Some stopped including me in casual lunch invites. Alex still acted friendly, but something about it felt performative, like he wanted to keep me close enough to watch. One day, we were in a brainstorming session. I mentioned an unfinished concept I'd been working on, just a rough draft saved in my personal drive. I hadn't shared it with anyone yet. The next day, Alex presented a nearly identical version of that same concept, complete with my unique phrasing, as his own. David loved it. My stomach dropped. That's when I realized Alex somehow had access to my files. At first, I doubted myself. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe he came up with something similar. But then I tested it. I started adding fake details into my drafts, made up project names, wrong numbers, deliberately bad taglines, and waited. Within days, those same fake details appeared in our team meeting slides, always through Alex. That confirmed it. Someone, most likely Alex, was snooping on my drafts and using them. But how? Then I remembered that a few months earlier, Alex had borrowed my computer to test a campaign script that wasn't running on his. I'd given him my login for a few minutes. I never changed the password afterward. That's all it would have taken. That night, I went home furious, but also focused. I wasn't going to confront him yet, not without proof. So I decided to bait him. The next morning, by the coffee machine, I casually mentioned to Alex that I'd been getting calls from recruiters. "Nothing serious," I said. "Just seeing what's out there. Maybe it's time for a change." He gave me the fake grin of his. "Oh really? What kind of offers?" I shrugged. "Startups mostly. West Coast stuff." He laughed. "Man, if you leave, this place will fall apart." "Yeah, sure." The very next day, David called me into his office. "Tom, I heard you're planning to leave. You should have told me." My heart jumped, but I kept a straight face. "Who told you that?" I asked. He said, "Doesn't matter who. Just keep me updated." I nodded. Of course. That confirmed it. Alex was leaking what I said, word for word. Now that I knew, I decided to have a little fun. I started spreading different fake versions of my plans to different coworkers. To one person, I said I'd gotten an offer from a fintech startup in San Francisco. To another, I said I might move to Austin for remote consulting. To Alex, I said it was a job in San Diego. A week later, David casually asked me, "So, you're moving to San Diego soon?" Bingo. Only Alex knew that version. Now I was sure, but I still needed proof of the file access. So I installed a simple logging script on my work account that tracked logins and file modifications. It wasn't company-level hacking, just basic monitoring. For a few days, nothing happened. Then, one night around 10:47 p.m., while I was home, a new log entry appeared. Login from internal network, device, workstation 7, user, Alex G. He'd accessed my account after hours. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from adrenaline. I took screenshots of everything, the logs, the timestamps, even his user ID. The next morning, I arrived at work early. My draft folder had been accessed again overnight. Last modified, 10:48 p.m. That was my final confirmation. I spent the day preparing my trap. At lunchtime, I created a fake resignation letter, a simple Word document titled Resignation Tom Docs. Inside, I wrote a short, believable message about leaving the company effective 2 weeks from today, and attached a fake email draft addressed to HR. Then I saved it in my private folder, the same one Alex had been snooping through. Then I waited. 2 nights later, at exactly 11:02 p.m., my script pinged me again. Alex's workstation, same IP, same credentials. He opened the file. The next morning, David called me into his office, looking uncomfortable. "Tom," he said, "I heard you've submitted your resignation." I nearly laughed out loud. "What? No. Where'd you hear that?" He shifted in his chair. Well, it was mentioned that you sent something to HR," I said calmly. "I haven't sent anything." "Who told you that?" he muttered. "It doesn't matter who." I smiled. "Actually, it does, because I know exactly who it was." He frowned. "Excuse me." I opened my laptop, pulled up the login logs, and turned it toward him. "This," I said, "is your golden boy Alex logging into my account after hours. He's been stealing my work and spreading rumors. You believed him without proof, and now he's caught." David's face turned pale. He asked where I got the data, and I told him calmly, "From my personal activity monitor." He tried to say it wasn't appropriate to track coworkers, but I reminded him that accessing someone else's account was a far bigger violation. By noon, HR was involved. They called me in, asked for the evidence, and I gave them everything: the screenshots, the timestamps, even the fake resignation letter that triggered the whole thing. I didn't embellish or rant. I just explained it clearly. I had reason to believe my files were being accessed. I gathered evidence, and I wanted them to handle it. By 3 p.m., Alex was called into HR. He came out 30 minutes later looking pale and furious. He didn't even make eye contact with me. By the end of the week, his desk was empty. HR later confirmed he'd been terminated for unauthorized access to company accounts and data manipulation. Apparently, he'd been logging into several people's profiles to check on progress, but mine was the one he used to claim ideas as his own. After that, David apologized. "Sort of," he said. "I should have double-checked before believing rumors." I just nodded. He knew he messed up. The funny thing is, after Alex was gone, the team dynamic completely changed. People started talking to me again. Meetings weren't full of fake smiles anymore. Even David started giving me actual credit. But I wasn't done yet. A few weeks later, during my annual review, I brought everything up again: how I'd been undermined, accused, and gaslit for months. HR gave me a quiet nod, and 2 weeks later, I got a raise and was reassigned under a different manager. I didn't celebrate, though. I just went home, made dinner, and sat on my couch in silence for a while, because honestly, what stuck with me wasn't that I won. It was how quickly people believe a lie if it comes from the right mouth. For months, my reputation had been quietly poisoned by someone who smiled at me every morning, and no one questioned it, not even my boss. All it took was one manipulative coworker with access and confidence. Since then, I've learned to protect myself differently. I use unique passwords. I keep work and personal stuff separate. And I never, ever trust someone just because they're nice at the office. Sometimes I think about Alex. I heard he tried to get another job, but HR checks killed his chances. A small part of me feels bad for him, but only a very small part. Because the truth is, he did it to himself. And honestly, the only thing I regret is that I didn't catch him sooner.